Awesome. Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. We're going to start with roll call. And in our, just for brief introduction, one thing I was thinking is maybe folks can share their favorite thing about fall. Like that feels good. I know we don't have a lot of time to like socialize, so that could be fun. It could be, something you can share. And then I'm actually gonna like I'll call folks' names, and if they can let me know they're here, then you can share whatever you would like to share today. Perfect. So Leslie Brown. Here. Mariah Bruce. Here. And Horny with the leaves. Are my favorite thing about fall. Leslie.
Office falls like the beginning of the holiday season, and I enjoy the holidays.
Awesome. Angela Butler.
Ditto. And I'm here.
Rachel Corona.
Here, prefer the cooler weather.
Lauren Dalbert.
You let us know he's on his way, just running a little late.
Okay, great, thank you. Pastor Ed Harris.
I'm present and it's harvest time.
Bianca Lachaud.
Here, one thing about fall I love is watching the leaves just pile up in the backyard.
Nice. And Dr. Payne.
I like the colors, like the burnt oranges and the greens and all those beautiful things present.
Walter McMath. Dr. Nichols.
Here, I like the start of the holidays. I love it. All the food that comes along with it.
Nettie Ogende.
Yeah, I love the colors of fall.
And Willie Robinson.
Here, season of rest. I'm a farmer, so I come off the farm and it's time to kind of kick back for a while.
And Walter, we just did roll call and we were saying what our favorite thing about fall is.
Okay, Walter McMath, hi everybody, sorry to be a little late. My favorite thing about fall, here in the Bay, we don't really get the change of seasons as much. I would say, leaves changing color, not so much of a thing, but we do get some wonderful sunsets around this time of year that are just quite pretty, so I'll say that.
Thank you.
Good thing, you're in the wrong neighborhood.
Okay, and we have some staff in the room. I'm Jessica Trevina, budget and policy analyst. Yeah, love as they say, sweater weather. We also have some more staff in the room.
Peter Kim with Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice. I love that we're just a few hours away from snow. I'm waiting for the snow to fall.
And I'm Jill Ray with the Office of Supervisor Candace Anderson. We have Apple Hill every fall, so that's my favorite thing. So we can see the colors.
Very nice. Still have, let's see, is there still someone on from Richmond, right?
We do have Co-Director Kendra Carr, but she is en route, so she's in transit. She'll be here.
So yes, I'm gonna let me move this. I apologize. I'm going in the wrong direction here. Would not be the first time. Okay, so yeah, just a quick snapshot of the agenda. Folks have it in front of them. We're just gonna quickly just remind ourselves of the community agreements we put together. And wondering for the purpose of, and I can say them if that feels good. And for the purpose of today, if folks would like to lift something else up. Does anyone, should we read them? Should we just look at them? Folks can share them. It's the best way to help remind ourselves of it. I'm happy to read them. If folks feel called to support, they can. But we talked about centering one another's well-being and group wellness. We talked about being the example around respect and showing respect, respecting fellow members, earning energy, labor, and differences. Talked about stepping up and stepping back in terms of sharing the mic, taking space and making space. Welcome in. We talked about taking care of our needs and asking for support if we have additional needs. Listening to understand and not to respond. Pausing for questions, asking questions if they come, staying solution focused, and assuming good intentions. And Lauren, we just did roll call and asked what are our favorite things about fall. So if you'd like to share that, and then co-director Carr will also share that.
Pool walks and leaf covered trails in the fall.
Like haiku.
Okay, yes. in the fall.
Hi, greetings, everyone. Favorite thing about fall might just be my birthday, 2 days ago.
That was yesterday. Yesterday. Okay.
Good to see everyone.
Okay, and then, okay, and so that we have these for now, they're a living agreement, so we can always, as we get to different discussions, if we think we need to think of other ways to, respect one another, we can, but just want to bring these into the space. And then next, we actually have public comment. Mine, that is. Yeah, they're on there anymore. Okay. Okay, so no public comment. Now we're gonna move right along to reviewing and ratifying the bylaws. We're also gonna discuss officer nominations and alternate members. So if folks remember, I shared the bylaws last time we were together, and those were prior to being approved. They were approved on November the 4th with the introduction of the concept of having alternates. So 3 alternate members who would support the body in the case that quorum is not reached. We will, I believe it is our direction from the equity chair and vice chair to open up that fully as a new application process for folks. So we can also let community members who applied in the last to be seated on the board, let them know that those seats are open. And also there was 1 resignation, and so there is 1 seat open on this body, and this body will make a recommendation to the board of how to fill that role as well. Lastly, before I take a moment and have the co-directors share more about this, there's also the opportunity with the bylaws and with the formality of the meetings to have a chair and vice chair for the meetings. And so I think I sent that out, that if folks were interested in nominating themselves or others, and we can just discuss that for today, or if folks feel ready, we can move forward with that. So this is a 3-part announcement, so we'll step back and go to the first part, that folks should have a copy of the newly approved bylaws from the Board of Supervisors. Yes, sir.
I have one quick question. You mentioned the alternates, there are 3. Maybe I missed it. They were just selected randomly, not from specific districts.
They haven't been selected as of yet, and the chair and vice chair of equity suggested that we open a new application
Application
process for that. So there was no specific direction about location or
And maybe just to clarify, the seats that you all are in are not district-based seats. The supervisors chose to interview by districts just because they wanted the geographic, a wide representation for across the county. So we had a resignation. We're not, they may choose to fill it with someone from, that individual's district, but they might not. Just to clarify, the seats that you were in are at large. Everyone is in an at-large seat.
With the resignation, are all districts still represented?
Yes, yes. That person was from District 4. Concord.
And are people familiar with the alternate seats in terms of how they serve, different from the seats you all occupy?
Clarification would be, if by chance there was not a quorum, then the alternates would sit in and have a vote.
Yes, so alternates can attend every meeting as you all do, but they just don't participate as an active voting member unless there is an absence of a seated, like active or a seated member. Then it's up to the chair and or the vice chair to kind of select which alternate member who's there can actually sit in for that person for that meeting. And then they can resume all the responsibilities that a regular member would, like vote on things or to help us achieve quorum. The alternate members absolutely help in that respect, so we can get quorum. Yes, Jill?
So some bylaws of other advisory bodies have written in it, not many, about if a member isn't present at the start of the meeting, that the alternate continues to sit even if they come late. So that might be something you all want to kind of think about how you do that. You know, if somebody's running 10 minutes late and they come, they just participate as public versus if the alternate's already sitting in their seats.
Oh.
So it's just something to think about, you know, you all have to decide how to handle that.
Okay. Like for instance, if someone was late today by 10-15 minutes, and in that meantime, an alternate stepped in for that person's place so we can get the meeting going with quorum. I think the question is, does that alternate just continue to sit for the rest of the meeting as a serving member with that person who was late? Is one who's observing, listening, but isn't the voting member for that particular meeting? I guess the other option would be no, then that person, that alternate gets booted out once a seated member comes in and, you know, resumes their seat, but I think that would be up to you all on how you may want to approach that. We have a sense?
I have a question. So the alternate comes in if it's necessary to meet quorum, or do they just come in even if quorum is already met?
Even if quorum's already met, they're welcome to attend any and every meeting, just like any member of the public.
But I mean, but actually come in, and if a member is late, quorum is met, would an alternate basically fill that person's seat if that person is late, or does that only happen to meet quorum?
No, they can fill that seat, even if quorum is established without that alternate member, because then they can vote if there's ever an item that needs to be voted upon. And they can just participate in the conversation like any other.
I'm
just curious,
Go ahead.
I'm curious about how it was handled in the other instance where you've seen it written into.
If it's written into the bylaws, any advisory body that it is, the alternate who starts the meeting continues through the entire meeting, even if a member comes late.
Okay, so that's how it's been handled in other cases?
When it's written into the bylaws,
Got it.
yeah.
Willie?
Well, there's a fixed number of members. And in the case where the person is late and you seat the alternate, when that person come in, if that alternate stays, does that take you past the total number of members? And is that not creating a situation?
So I think again, if, let's say with an alternate, who is taking the place of someone who was late and wasn't there, and we've reached 13, the total number of me, then yes, that person who comes late is not an acting member of the group that day for the rest of the meeting, if we agree that that's how the alternate should.
Voting member.
Voting member, sorry.
So the alternate who replaces that person will stay, and the person who's coming in late will kind of be the alternate, not a voting member.
Right.
That makes, it's not a better clarity to me in my mind, so.
Yes.
If I may, the only challenge I possibly see with that is if the alternate is not up to speed on whatever it is gonna be voting on, they are at a disadvantage in regards to that vote. And so with that in mind, we have to decide how to handle that. Because if the person came in late, is already up to speed, then it may be a need to make a switch. Just thinking beyond the conversation right now.
The alternates are expected to attend all meetings and be knowledgeable of all business.
That's the assumption I'm making. The alternate will get all of the packet. If you're an alternate, you will get all the information everyone else is getting, so you need to be prepared to fill in at that point.
Yes.
That's kind of the way I'm thinking. Maybe that's the way it is.
Receive all the information and expected to also attend and listen and hear the conversation as every other, as every other member. Walter.
Thanks. So I just wanted to humbly and gently suggest maybe some reasonable grace period, if people are comfortable with that. Hey, I'll take the L and speak as the person that was late today. But also, things happen and we don't want people killing themselves on the floor trying to get here. So if folks are comfortable, we could agree to build in like a 10 to 15 minutes grace period, for example.
Yeah, fair.
I think maximum like 10 minutes, just to respect everyone's time.
I think that's a reasonable point. We definitely want to respect people's time.
And yeah, and I'm sorry that I presented like 4 things at once. So I'm gonna just like step back real quick. And so, we do know there's alternates. We will let you know as the opening for that comes, as we make the announcement. So we will announce the applications, and follow through with the equity chair and vice chair on that. And then as far as the bylaw, we're mostly gonna, we're not like redrafting, but just confirming and ratifying them, that the board approved. I think, we did send out a copy last week, and so it's like acknowledging that these are the bylaws that we're gonna be like moving forth with, if folks, seen them, or if you have recommendations for the board, we can present those now. And then as far as for the open seat, are we gonna talk about that now, or do we wait until the next meeting? Oh, the resignation, yeah, the resignation seat.
Same process.
Okay, the equity committee will approve. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So that resignation occurred like just shortly after the recommendations were made. And by county policy, we have to make that announcement that the vacancy was opened up and we have to leave it open for a certain number of days. And then the board received that resignation, approved it, received it, and now we're able to recruit for that. So we're gonna do a double recruitment for the alternate seats and the vacant seat at the same time with the new open recruitment for all 4 seats. And again, it's up to the equity committee to make the recommendations for this board.
So it would be appropriate now to offer the amendment or the additions to bylaws to take to the equity committee?
We can receive them, just so you know, the process would be that if there are any amendments to the bylaws, we would then, yes, present them to equity. If equity chooses to receive them, they then have to route them back to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Technically, looking at Jill, if we don't have
You don't need to amend the bylaws. You can just make that an operating procedure of the group and agreed upon, instead of, because it is complex to amend the bylaws once they're done.
okay,
Okay, yeah, so we don't have to like change about the 10-minute grace period and all that. That's just sort of
You can decide as a group that that's the way you're gonna operate.
Unless there, yeah, was there another amendment that you were thinking about?
I was just listening to the conversation, so I heard the 10 minutes. I also heard, management of the seats if there was a tardy or an absence for the alternates. And so I didn't know I didn't see that in here. That's actually new. So this, recommendation, thank you very much, makes it clear for me.
Yes. So, I'll do is it appropriate now to do a roll call to ratify the bylaws as they were approved.
And there's the one more piece was the officer nominations. That's a part of this
That's right.
conversation. If the body wanted to do that today.
And we did have one nomination. And if folks, yeah, so there's, I'll present two options and we can, if folks are ready to nominate themselves or others today, we can do that. We can also do like anonymous nominations between this meeting and next meeting. And we have one nomination today for Pastor Harris.
And the seats are chair and vice chair that we're talking about, so. So that's the question on the floor is nominations for those two officer seats.
As stated,
Down the room.
I accept nominations for the chair position.
And do folks need a little more information about what the seats entail?
Yes.
That's helpful, yeah.
Yep.
I guess some of the.
So the chair and the vice chair will officiate the meetings, facilitate the meetings. You'll start the meeting, you'll move us through the agenda, you'll support the board in coming to a conclusion for each agenda item and get everyone ready to vote, and you'll call the vote. We are here as staff to support the chair and the vice chair along the way. So the chair will serve and officiate the meetings. And if the chair is absent, the vice chair will take that role. Chair and the vice chair work closely together.
Yeah, and I think if there are any, moving forward, if there are any like subcommittee, ad hoc committee type tasks moving forward, we would look to the chair and the vice chair to help kind of coordinate the creation of those ad hoc committees if they come up. Walter and then Willie.
Well, let me jump the gun, but I would be willing to self-nominate to be vice chair. Period. Point blank.
My question was related to the role of setting the agenda, which sometimes the chair and participate in that's not a part of the responsibility of this chair, right? The agenda for these meetings going forward.
No, I think we would definitely be working as staff with the chair
chair.
to make sure that, but yeah, I guess in the minute, sometimes agendas are just too packed. You may need someone to help weigh in on like what doesn't get addressed in that particular meeting.
So if you're gonna go through a formal motion, because you do have self-nominated person for both positions, is the motion in order to move that forward or not?
We were just gonna ask, and maybe we can go around and just say if folks are ready to, because it's your choice if you wanna just receive nominations today, or if you want time in between today and the next meeting to submit additional nominations, or think if you wanna self-nominate. However, if the body's ready today, you can also vote. So if it's okay, can we go around the room just to get a temp check to see where folks are with that? Just so we can hear everyone's voice. Because your first decision, your first vote. Can we start over there, Lauren? Are you
I
ready?
was just kind of curious, is there any other members who were thinking that they might be interested in filling those roles?
I'd like
That's
to
sort of why
nominate
Okay,
Dr. Nichols as vice chair.
okay, and a second nomination for Dr. Nichols as vice chair. Okay.
I'm ready to vote then.
What we can do, maybe we can go around and see if anyone else, if anyone else wants to nominate themselves or someone else. No, okay.
Yeah, I think my question would be the same if there's any unreadiness and if people do need time before they make a decision to think about it.
Right.
So I could go either way.
And you've already submitted your name?
I have submitted my name,
Very
it's,
good.
we're happy to proceed either way, just whatever we need, it's fine.
Thank you.
I guess the question is there anyone that needs time to think about this? Like, I'm okay with the nomination, so.
And so if you need time, when we come around to you, please let us know. That's a part of the question that we're asking. If you would like more time, let us know. Okay. And then,
I'm fine with.
okay,
I was until now you've got two parties interested in one position, so that kind of, if it's only two people, then I was fine, but now maybe thinking about pairing the two, so voting for the one that I believe would be to fill that challenge position.
okay, so that makes sense. So you're wondering how to make that selection. Thank you. You've
Yeah, now I want to check in, you know, know a little bit more about them.
Okay,
They can make verbal statements so we can dwell on this.
okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
I agree. I think that we would like to have, or I would like to have a verbal statement from folks just to see what their background is and what their interests are. Just have a little bit more information.
Okay.
I agree with that as well. I'm glad you said something because I was thinking.
To have, okay, and so far what we hear is having the three folks who nominated themselves make a statement about their interest and why they're interested in serving. That's what I'm hearing, right?
For me, it was, if you got two people campaigning for the same position, then I want to compare those to the other one. If there's no one competing, fine with that, if I'm clear in terms of what I'm saying.
Yes.
I agree to make a statement. I'll do that.
Well, I'm a little torn. I'm humbled and I appreciate the nomination. I'm open to serve and make a statement. Might need a little bit more time, to be quite frank with you, but that's where I stand.
Yeah,
You prefer more time.
my thought process is a little different, like I'd like there to be kind of time for both. So it would be lovely if within a week from today, within the week of 5:30 next Monday, if all nominations could be received by then. And then whoever is nominated be prepared with a statement at the beginning of the next meeting. I think to me that feels appropriate so that everyone has time to kind of process and decide their capacity. And then also knows that if they're nominated, that they'll need a statement.
I concur.
And maybe like a couple minute statement, a minute or two?
So we're gonna go back around the room because we have another proposal on the floor, which is, appreciate that, Mariah. I'm gonna try and say it. Within 1 week, all nominations should be sent to staff, should be sent to Jessica. We have 3 already. We have 2 for vice chair and 1 for chair. So if any other nominations, please send them within a week. This is what you all are gonna vote on, by the way. And then at the top of the next meeting, everyone who's been nominated, will be prepared to give a statement. Everyone, I heard you say not just the 2. What was your proposal for?
Yeah, everyone who was nominated.
Okay. So that's the proposal. One proposal. What was the other proposal?
I think folks were saying that they'd like to hear from folks.
Yeah, the other
Nominated.
proposal was for the 3 candidates to be able to prepare statements.
Yes,
And I
that was,
think that should also include anyone else who wants to nominate themselves during that time frame. If we're
Yeah.
giving people
Yeah.
time, that gives people the time to process if they want to even accept the nomination or someone else wants to take one on themselves.
And I just, and then if you can put the roles, responsibilities of the chair and the vice chair, and then so they know what they're signing up for.
yes. And so essentially, yeah, so we'll send those out and the role or the idea is not that they would everything would be on their own as staff. I'll support, prepare everything for meetings and stuff, which just like gives you all a voice to facilitate the meeting and. Yes, and a lot of folks did send like bios and like pictures, which are super cute. I was hoping for that to be something we could like celebrate one another with, but it also could be possibly helpful for this process too. So that's.
Is there somewhere that's listed in our handbook? Because even as everyone is talking, I'm trying to figure out your name, to be quite honest with you. So that would kind of be helpful if there was something in our handbook where we could identify that. And maybe in the time being, if when we speak, we said our name so that we can kind of get familiar with everyone's name.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm hoping to get like a bio sheet with everyone's face. I've been working on it. Everybody's gorgeous. I got their great faces and I got lots of folks' bios. And so I'm hoping that we can have that together by next meeting. And so you might get some folks might get a personal ping from me if I'm still looking for it.
And do we have permission to share internally just within this group your contact information to one another? So you can at least have names before, in the meanwhile, while we're preparing this more full, complete summary of people's. Yeah. If anyone does have issue, just email us directly offline.
So I'm thinking you're asking from the individual groups of whether they're okay with sharing information within the group only.
Just within the group, not public.
Like an email list or
Yeah,
a
yeah.
list, yeah.
Okay, with a reminder though, please, no communication with anything larger than, yeah, offline conversation still constitutes a meeting if it's more than seven or more people.
Like grueling training kind of build into your mind some of the things you should not be doing.
Right.
Folks can email me directly.
Jill, you had a comment?
I was just gonna say, some advisory bodies, members will create a special Gmail just for that advisory body because you are a public body, so anything you email is a public record. So like, might think about our Measure X CAB, they all created their separate Gmail address for anything to do with MX CAB. So it's just something to think about. May not matter to some of you, but emails to be back and forth or sharing an email, you might want to think about that.
Thank you for that.
Sounds a good idea then. She said.
And if I could just restate then where we're at, right now, we will send out, we will solicit from you all any nominations for chair or vice chair. We'll include that email summary of the roles and responsibilities. We're gonna ask that you send that to us no later than Monday of next week. We will then let you all know who the nominated folks are. Those folks, if they accept the nominations, will come prepared for a real brief statement at the top of the next meeting, so we can then take a vote in the next meeting for the chair and vice chair. Outside of that, we are looking for someone to make a motion to ratify the bylaws though as.
I have a minute. I do ask that the names of all of the members, whatever is submitted, that is in there. The names in the, so that we know, I feel very uncomfortable that now that we're having this conversation and I don't know every single person's name. And I don't have anything to reference their name as well.
So we'll include the rosters.
And another amendment, define briefly. Put a number on
2
it.
to 3 minutes.
Two
You know, like we did the interview.
I was defined briefly.
Make it,
Gotcha.
say 2 minutes.
2 minutes statement.
Put a number on it.
Yeah, because it's hard.
Raise a little 2 to 3 minute statement.
Yeah, and 59 seconds. It's
Yeah, we're trying to get the pictures together. So final.
All right, let's go. Can we get a motion to ratify the bylaws?
Motion to ratify the bylaws.
Second. Okay, second Mariah.
Okay,
Motion
Should
came
we call for a
from
vote or?
Walter,
we're gonna go
the
around.
second
Okay.
came from Mariah, and then so Leslie Brown. Angela?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Pastor Harris?
Yes.
Bianca?
Yes.
Dr. Payne?
Yes.
Dr. Nichols?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Lily Robinson?
Yes.
Oh, clarification. Was there not a roster created with the names on it already that's been published? So, yeah, that readily easily.
It's a roster, yeah, it doesn't have like a picture or like an email, it doesn't have like the email addresses or the phone number, like we redacted all those things. So I can send one out, I just wanted to make sure folks were okay with sharing that, and then as far as the picture, I think I think I can get you guys something soon with that. So
To help facilitate that for Jessica, can we actually say that we will need bios and pictures from folks who have not yet submitted it no later than this Thursday? Can we do that? Thank you.
and thank you to everyone that has sent that. About here today, too. Okay, so we're gonna go to, we're gonna talk a little bit about the solicitation process. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. And do we have any public comment online? Sure.
If anyone online would like to make a public comment, can you please raise your hand and we will call on you? Or if anyone in the room would like to make a public comment. No hands online.
And so we're gonna discuss the solicitation process that we talked about for implementing a lead entity and for rapid response services. So the purpose of this discussion is clarity and alignment on the approach, not to like select organizations or anything today. And our goal is to confirm the direction and identify any critical concerns around couple things we'll share here. And then both will get a draft of the bylaws so that they can look at it word for word deeper before our next meeting. So there is so first we'll discuss the RFP for community-based rapid response services. And so folks know, this is the table of contents and things that are in that solicitation as drafted at this time. Here's about the intent and the background, where the money is coming from, Measure X. About the wellness and resource hub and like kind of the history of that. The role of the implementation lead entity and timeline. And then there's application instructions. Some of the things in these kinds of solicitations are kind of standard legal language that the county has to provide. And then there'll also be like bidders information session, and a way for folks to submit questions, appeal, and submit. The background of this is that we are seeking proposals from local agencies or extend collaboratives to provide critical services that are going to increase the access to wellness, safety, and healing for African American communities across the county. The awarded agencies will serve as the initial cohort of organizations to provide rapid response services with the African American Wellness Resource Hub, a culturally grounded countywide network of supportive services and resources that promote wellness, economic stability, and healing in vulnerable African American communities. So the goal is to improve the health and well-being outcomes for African American residents by investing in organizations that are embedded in, led by, and trusted by African American communities. And the selected grantees will deliver direct services in collaboration with community-based providers and county departments and receive coordination, technical assistance, and capacity building support from a contracted implementation lead entity. So talk more about that later. And this collaborative approach builds on successful county models such as the Family Justice Alliance and the Reentry Success Network, if folks are familiar with those. And so across 3 years, from June 2026 to May 2029, ORSJ will annually steward 1.25 million in Measure X funds to select community CBOs or community-based organizations, sorry, I'm not gonna jargon, to expand their existing programs or develop new initiatives that build capacity, increase access, and improve health outcomes for African-American residents. So that's what we have set at this time as the intention and the background for this, based on the implementation plan that was created and sort of the history up to now. I do.
You finished. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, and just so, Ms. Wilson, I see your hand, and I'm just gonna go through 2 more slides, and then I'll give you a call on you. One of the things that we augmented about this solicitation was to focus on these 12 census tracts that we pulled a lot of data about, which were identified as having significant population and falling under the 25th percentile of the Healthy Places Index. So it indicates that these areas are performing worse than the majority of census tracts across California. So these tracts are located within Richmond, North Richmond, Pittsburgh, and Antioch, and the census tract numbers are here. I know most people don't know their census tract number. They usually know their postal code. But this is, just for the sake of data, this was the HBI index. I think it's referenced a little bit more in the other packet. So to meet the resident needs and ensure accessibility, the goal is that the rapid response services funded through this be located within and across the neighborhood sites that fall within these or can serve those areas. And finally, the priority service categories for this solicitation are as follows: behavioral health, housing support, reentry support, preventative health, and infant and maternal health. And again, these service categories came up through
The feasibility study process, and they were decided upon by the last steering committee for your predecessors.
And so the goal would be 1 to 2 grants per service area, with a $250,000 award per cycle, renewable by satisfactory progress on the outcome.
Are we gonna have, I know this is just an overview of it, but will we have more time to break each one of those categories down in the RFP, identifying maybe if the strategy or program activities or outcomes that we're trying to achieve for those? Will we have time to break down each of those sections? Because those are very broad, and that can mean a lot of things. And we want to focus the services on where the biggest need is.
Yes, so I think today what we want to do, this is pretty much kind of a recap of what we discussed last time. Nothing's new in here, but we knew it was a lot of information, so we just wanted to kind of reintroduce it to you all. We are going to invite a conversation so you can ask those questions like today, but what we're going to do then is actually send you all via email a draft of each of these solicitations that we're going to discuss today. And then you're gonna have some time, but we are gonna impress upon the urgency of, we're gonna give you about a week and a half. We're gonna ask folks to then provide staff, us, with any feedback, edits, suggestions for the solicitations based on the conversation we have today and your own thinking. And then the idea is that we will synthesize all of your feedback into a final or a near final draft that we will then come back to you at the next TCAB meeting to have a final discussion there that we can then get consensus from this group to move forward to the equity committee for their December meeting, for them to then consider and hopefully approve and move forward and maybe add some adjustments so that we can then submit it to the full board of supervisors for their approval to release in January. Because just the nature of the way the meetings are scheduled, the holidays, that's why we are kind of having a fast timeline. Now, of course, if you all, after reviewing it, say, look, we need more time. Well, we can consider it's the TCAB. Just know that then that pushes all the timeline back. What we will share with you today is the proposed timeline that what we are proposing today, if we go through that timeline that I just offered, will allow us to have contracts beginning of the new fiscal year, July 1, 2026. Unfortunately, it will be difficult, I think, to adjust within that time if we prolong it further and still have contracts start July. That clear? Jump.
Just maybe some clarification here. I guess the first thing is that most of them having a timeline is important. But if the timeline does not accommodate the input that is needed from members, I don't know that that's very productive, because then you won't need us. The second part of it is, you were making reference to, you're saying 12 census tract. And maybe I'm the one that's missing here. I need to better understand what's included in the census tract, because when you say 12 census tract within Richmond, North Richmond, Antioch, and Pittsburgh, that's not aligned with zip codes, or help me out with that. Maybe I need time to do some research
Yeah.
to better understand the census tract, and who's involved in the census
The
tract.
census tract, yeah, the census tract is not the same as the zip, like a zip code. It's the way the census does their work. And it's not something that people know, people don't usually know their census tract. But in the public health world, often folks will use census tracts to track kind of like place-based data. And so in this case, it was a healthy people index, healthy places index, excuse me. And there's a little bit more in-depth discussion about this in the implementation plan. And the work that was done there. So. Yeah.
Well, I guess,
Are you on there?
I'll find it. Okay. Let me just share my concern relative to a specific situation. I don't want to prolong this, but if you're telling me North Richmond is a census tract for African American or blacks, I'm in and out of North Richmond all the time, and that demographic has really changed quite a bit. So what is it really reflecting?
It's not the full North Richmond, but there's a census tract in North Richmond. And I think we're gonna pull up the map. I think it might be in your binder actually, but
I think it was shared with us. So there are, so maybe we should say neighborhoods. So there are neighborhoods that have been identified as having, real quick, as having large population of African Americans and also some social vulnerability. We're saying healthy places index, but social vulnerability, a level of poverty, a level of the presence of, unfortunately, violence. There are a few things that go into that social vulnerability index, but they're neighborhoods. So I'm gonna pull it up.
stop sharing.
Well, although the map that I'm gonna show you, it's a map and it doesn't, there are some streets. But we can also. I don't know if you can see this, so it's not all of North Richmond, but it is this.
Well, just,
Sorry.
bear with me just 1 second. Okay, I go in and out of North Richmond all the time. I don't know that I can clearly identify a particular street sections, if you want to go by that, where there's predominantly blacks. But your data may be suggesting it, but I don't know, has that changed?
No. So the percentile is greater than 10%. So my people, we are only, 8% of Contra Costa County? We're not here in Larson.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the whole county. So when we say, sorry, maybe we're using the wrong language. We'll be more clear. So it's greater than 10%. So to your point, it may not be a black neighborhood. you know, may not be a Black neighborhood, but it's a neighborhood where the most concentrated Black populations
Are also having the most disparities. So it's not an eye
Yeah.
level account of our experience in a neighborhood, but it's public health data about some of the greatest disparities in the.
But I hear what.
And I just wanna, I'm just trying to put the pieces of the conversation together to determine if I'm understanding you correctly, that the census is where the greatest need is at this current time, right? And where we're looking to serve. Yes?
Yes, yes.
Well, if if this program is all about serving Blacks that having the greatest need, I'm just not convinced some of the data that I'm seeing is reliable. Right. So how do we shore that up the best we can, but all at the same time to address African American needs?
Well, we could also ask you what other data, you know, is there another? Well, actually, I wanna go to a kind of technical point real quick, which is not to. But I do wanna open it up to this body, because this body, this is why you're here. We wanna feel good about the direction that we're going. The only technical point that I wanna make is this conversation has been public at the steering committee meeting, at the equity committee and the board. And the decision the board made was to move forward this plan. And so the only quick technical thing I wanna say is, should we make any other decision, we can't just move on it, we gotta go back to the board. The Board of Supervisors has sort of approved the fact that they've accepted the data. In community, and this is, you know we haven't met, we haven't reached every Black person in Contra Costa County. We recognize that outreach problem. But we did try and get a lot of feedback on this plan. So I just want to make that point. Now, back to the point, I see some hands, so I do want to open it up to TCAB members. Walter first, sorry, you've been waiting, I know.
Super brief, I just wanted to let everybody know that these maps are available to us in our binders on pages 27 and 28.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Payne, and then.
No, I just was gonna ask, I just wanted greater clarity that, are you saying that there's another area that we should be serving? And I wish I
Mr.
knew
Robinson?
everybody's name.
I know, Mr. Robinson?
I just know NAACP.
I'm sorry.
I know everybody's profession pretty much, but I need to learn everyone's name. I was saying, are you saying that there is an area that is being overlooked? Is what I'm saying, because I guess for me, it's like, where is the disparity? Is there someone that we're missing, or?
No, it's not you're missing, not the data is what the data is from the census. But when you go to the area, the percentage of Blacks in the North Richmond area, which is a fairly small area, it's not addressing specifically what number of Blacks are there and what their needs are. Most certainly you can make the assumption that there's a great need there, because there's always have been. But I'm just saying, the data that I'm seeing is it's not consistent. What I see relative, even though it's proven data. Data can do a number of different things, for whatever reason they're for. So it's just raising the concern more or less to make sure that we're not here sitting, making decisions, and we're not impacting the population we should be as a result of this definition of the African American holistic group. There's some questions down there.
Yeah, that is canvas.
So I think, what I'm hearing here is, how do we validate the data? Is that what you're asking, sir?
I don't know that we need to validate the data. I think we need to be conscious of data that's not reflecting the true story.
So, I mean, a suggestion could be, I don't know what other parameters we can use, but using more than what we have here, maybe have 2 or 3 to compare. And then whatever we draw up as a conclusion from that, then we'll take it. I mean, we wouldn't get 100% for sure. But having more than just one, I think that's what I'm hearing here is to kind of validate what we have. So we're not overlooking some areas, if that's what it's saying. I think more than one data to show that this is where the greatest need is. Now, I don't have suggestions of what we can use, but I know that there, tools out there that we can use.
I know there are other hands, but I just wanna, can I ask a quick question? So I hear a solution, but I'm still trying to understand. Mr. Robinson, sorry to keep going back to this, but I'm still trying to understand before we come with solutions, let's make sure we're all clear on the problem. So I think what you're saying, the problem is. Are you saying the problem with the data is that there are other neighborhoods with larger concentrations of Black people that we've missed? Have we missed a Black community that needs support?
No, I'm not saying we miss, I'm saying if North Richmond is defined as an area where you have a large concentration of Blacks, then you go through that area, and I'm not so sure that concentration of Black percentage-wise is no different than what's in the county. Is that making sense? I guess.
So you're saying you don't see a large population of Black people when you're in North Richmond,
The demographic has changed.
and the demographics have shifted?
Have shifted, and I'm not sure what the 20th century, I'm looking at the 2010, that's what I was looking at, 2010 data and the 2020 data, and it's just not visible as you walk around and drive around through that community.
Do you feel though that of the Black community members in North Richmond that still live and reside there today, even though that population is shrinking, would you say though they do represent a vulnerable community that
Yes,
are in need of services? and
yes.
support? So something about these, I mean, one, in an effort to try to prioritize how the investments roll out, we use the Healthy Places Index, which is, it's not just a census, it's the Healthy Places Index uses a census to kind of look at census tracts. But what they do is they look at a whole bunch of different social determinants around, most around health and education and other things that try to measure like, what is one's life expectancy at birth based on the social conditions of a certain community. And that's why the data says that these census tracts that we've noticed, that we've raised up, have both significant, not huge majorities, but significant populations of African American, and also suffer from the highest disparities around health outcomes. That said, services that will be offered and then awarded through this RFP process, the proposal, what was approved by the board is that those services have to demonstrate in the application process that they are accessible, if not embedded in the communities outlined, but does not mean that they exclusively only serve those communities. So other community members, particularly Black members from other places that don't live in these areas, but may need the sports, can access those services, but the priority in terms of transportation access, ease or ability, outreach and engagement should prioritize these hyper vulnerable communities.
Sure, and that's why my question started about how you define a census tract. That's why I was trying to get my mind around what is a census tract. And if you look at that specific tract, if we can define that, then we can also determine how many Blacks are actually in that tract.
Yeah, I mean, I see your hand, Pastor.
This man's down there first.
Okay, but just real quick with that, I think the census tract, my understanding, and I'm not a statistician, so I don't know if I'm saying this absolutely accurate, but it's based on population density. So depending on the number of people in a certain given geographic area, some locations, some communities, some cities may have 30 census tracts, and another city may only have 10 based on population density. Richmond, North Richmond, because they have higher population density than say Brentwood or Oakley, I'm just making stuff up here, may have more census tracts. So census tracts, though, they may overlap across zip codes. That said, what we'll try to do is we'll work with Iman, our data analyst. We'll actually try to look at, and we've already tried this, we'll try to look at street boundaries. Would that be more helpful to this group if you actually heard like, these are the communities that exist roughly within this boundary and this boundary and this boundary of a certain community? Would that give you a better frame of reference of whether or not you feel that is a community that it should be prioritized? So that's the question.
I don't think that's gonna make a difference. I think that what I'm thinking, because I've been hearing a lot, first, when was the data, how relevant is the data? How new or old is this data? Number one, right? When was it pulled?
2020.
So that's 2020, this is 2025, things have changed.
Well, I think the census tracts in terms of the population data of the concentration of Black residents, that was 2020. But if I'm correct,
This was August.
yeah, we.
Okay, so this is recent.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So
And-
this is
and the
recent
health-
data,
And the
that's
health
great.
outcomes, I think, are also more recent than 20.
I'm also thinking of, within the track, what is the population of focus that we're going to be working with? For example, if in the North Richmond census tract, it's of the 10% or more of African Americans in that census tract, what percent are seniors? What percent are youth? What percent are folks that need access to other resources or services? Where do we get that level of data from? And I think that might come from the county itself. Has access to that, the health department.
Yeah,
Right.
we can find that, yeah. I agree.
And one thing I want to share, and I see Walter, and then do I? Those are mostly just, is it just Walter? Or is that, oh, and then Pastor Ed, okay. So yeah, go ahead, Walter.
So I think it's a great idea to break it down further by whatever additional categorizations we can get, demographics, really whatever, the more data we can get, the better, right? I think Peter's idea to potentially break it down by street boundary as well, is potentially helpful. Neighborhood names might also be helpful. I saw earlier, for example, a reference to Iron Triangle in the materials. Many of us will know what that means colloquially. And then last but not least, I'm wondering if we on the TCAB have the ability to review the study itself and the data that all of us are going to be relying on here.
We can provide you a link to the Healthy Places Index and
And then that way, if there's, maybe we can, if we see any holes or, any blind spots, we can, hit it that way.
And Pastor Ed.
Yeah, my challenge with this whole dialogue is we're talking about Contra Costa County, East County, and West County. Richmond has been identified and North Richmond have been identified as target areas that we would put a hub or have hub representation, as have Pittsburgh and Antioch. As we look at that, and perhaps, but Willie, my challenge is that we know that there's been migration, but with that migration, the question is, are there still people, and I think the question's already asked, are there still people there who need service? And is there any other area in Richmond, West County, that requires or has the need greater than the need that is there? And I think that's what we ought to be looking at, as opposed to trying to drill down into North Richmond, because we're identifying Richmond and we're identifying North Richmond. But we cannot identify clearly at this particular point, based on the fact that there has been migration from Richmond, partially to East County, partially to Solano County and the like. But based on what we have today, is there any other indication that there is a population of greater need that's already been identified than Richmond and North Richmond in that demographic area? And I'm hearing that there hasn't been any conclusive determination that there is. Unhashing or re-going through the study at this particular point, I heard earlier, we're working on timelines. Part of the narrative that's outside of this room is that this process is taking too long. Part of the narrative is that we've got deadlines that we're looking to meet and things that we're looking to accomplish. And so if we get stuck in the minutia and not look at the end product, then we could be chasing our tails for a while on this North Richmond thing alone. And so I'm not refuting what Brother Will is saying. I'm saying that can we take some time to just take a step back and look at what we have, because this is what's been approved and it's not going to get unapproved. This is what we've got to work with. And so work with what we have to get what we need and then grow from there beyond that, once we get what's already identified in this plan that we need to do. I hope that makes sense.
Just want to make a note, and I think I see Leslie's hand. I may have, one thing about the solicitation is we are lifting up those census tracts because those were found in the data. But I think part of what we were asking, and I possibly, and I apologize, I didn't frame this correctly, is, how we want to lift those up as a part of the solicitation. Do we want to make it a requirement that folks can, or, do we want to prioritize folks who can serve those areas? Are we lifting up that those are the area, it wouldn't be that they would only be the only areas served. Or, but I think that I did not frame it in a way that made it open for folks in other neighborhoods. So I want to apologize for rushing through that piece. And I think that Kendra can help me out if I didn't like fully flesh that out properly. I wanna note that too, that like we can. I think I framed it wrong about what the input was there, but I appreciate everything that folks have lifted up and I've taken some notes here. So I'm gonna say that and then ask for Leslie, and then if Peter or Kendra have any ways to help frame like what it is that we need there.
I just want to add, because one of the things I think is key is getting the additional demographic data, because we have those like 6 larger categories, and we're only going to be able to grant 1 to 2 organizations that do the service over the county. So like mental and behavioral health, do we need to focus in on youth mental health versus adult mental health? Or is there an opportunity to, make sure we have service organizations that cover both, like really understanding the demographic behind those larger health categories can help us narrow down like what population or target area focus we need to be in those areas.
There are some target populations though across all of the service categories that were determined by the previous steering committee as well as the survey. One was isolated elders. Another was African-American males, particularly those who are impacted by the criminal justice system. And people who are at risk or are unhoused or at risk of being unhoused. So those are 3 priority populations that were lifted up. Thoughts, questions?
Just for clarification, I was only mentioning North Richmond because I'm very familiar with that. I was not singling it out. I'm not trying to single North Richmond out by no means. It's just, I'm familiar with that area. I know what I see. And yeah, data sometimes depends on this purpose of serving can be somewhat misleading, specifically when you're trying to get services to people that's in need.
No, we appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. It led to a really good discussion here. Thank you for bringing that up. I also think that the ways the Black community is present, it's not, like these single data points sometimes don't tell our full story. It's also something that I'm taking from your comment, and I hear folks are up and down Highway 4 story across counties. Anybody?
So the direction I'm gonna take as staff is I'm gonna, in addition to sharing these, I think that we're gonna create some more space to look a little bit deeper into probably how to share how the data was, because there was a lot of different data sources pulled together and several methodologies taken over this time. So it would be wonderful if folks do have a chance to take a look at the implementation plan. There's some narrative of that and some explanation of that. I'll also make sure, if it hasn't been shared yet, the larger feasibility study and some of what work was done there. And I recognize that data, it does not always tell the story when it comes a year later or 2 years later, or sometimes during the pandemic or whatever. Things are stressful. So, but I'll find a way to better present the methodologies that have already been used and what sources we've pulled in, and also ways for us or for this body to work through what are some of the ways that they want the solicitation to take shape to meet the needs. Does that sound So we're gonna give this some more time and some more thought.
So one thing also, as you're reviewing in more detail, the draft that we're gonna share with you, certain things where we think there are some opportunities for this particular solicitation where you all can weigh. So one is like what you're doing now, drilling down on target populations, maybe applying more nuance in the way that it's gonna describe, that we could then put into a solicitation, but kind of put yourself in the mindset of a service provider who's applying. How would it be helpful if you are someone who's entertaining applying to know what are the parameters that this solicitation is going to require that someone delivers? So there's like target populations. Are there additional communities that you would want us to include outside of these target areas that have been identified? I can tell you one community that we've already heard that some people feel often ignored is like small but significant communities, Black communities in Rodeo. A lot of the folks who moved from North Richmond and Richmond into like the housing communities of Rodeo. That's an example. And are there any kind of requirements that you want to include in the RFP of service providers in terms of how they are, how their services will remain accessible to different folks? Like some of that kind of nuance and language we can insert into the RFP. Other areas is around funding amounts. Right now, what we propose to the board and what they've agreed upon is like basically an even breakdown across the 5 categories of that 1.125 million a year. So you'll see that there's that breakdown. And we're thinking 1 to 2 awards per category so that we can have sizable grants that can actually do some significant work. But you all may want to actually lean and say, well, can we consider smaller grants for more awardees? But you have to consider the smaller grant, the less an organization can actually do or accomplish. So there's some things that you can consider. Again, a lot of thought and intention has gone into what's been proposed. That's some area where you can lean in. For this particular one, we'll talk about the next solicitation. Lauren, you have your hand up?
Yeah, you had just mentioned about different demographics, and one of the things that went through my mind was if Black folks in concentration make up, 10% or less of that population, then does that mean that the majority of the people coming through those doors are going to be folks from other demographics? And how will that organization who's providing services navigate that, if that's the case or not? I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but I know in Sacramento, they talked about the fact that if white babies and white families were coming in there and being served. And so that was one of the questions that went through my mind was, in practice, what do the people look like who are coming through those doors?
Yeah. I mean, just on that note, right, it is absolutely clear with these public dollars, anyone and everyone who wants to access these services can access these services. And every provider we've spoken to also understands that, and they say that's their common practice. We serve whoever comes to our doors. But what we are asking of applicants, and this is where you all can help kind of provide some languages, that every provider though should have demonstrated expertise in outreaching and engaging Black communities so that they know that, so the Black community members in that community absolutely know those services are available for them, and that the practices within that organization are culturally responsive and they know how to engage and work with Black community members in a way that is respectful, that is safe. But again, to be clear, no one can be excluded from the services that are being offered.
Yeah, but that put the onus on us who are in this advisory capacity to make sure that we do all we can to clearly identify and point in the right direction, along with the service providers that they are outreaching to the population that this, as I'm reading it, was designed to help relieve the pressures or the problem. If we don't do that, then we are not solved by naught.
This is like down.
I just wanted to say real quick, sometimes Black looks different for everyone, especially when you're biracial. So we're gonna see a lot of families that have very light-skinned children, and the children are gonna be identified as being African-American because of their heritage. So we still want to kind of navigate a little caution there and not always assume that the white baby is white. They could also be mixed. And there's a lot of mixed babies in Brentwood, a lot of families, and sometimes the challenge to navigate systematic inequalities in your own family, and then to go somewhere and not necessarily get the same amount of care would just be extra traumatizing. So I think it's like really important for us to identify that Black comes in a bunch of different shades and to still be open to everyone, because you never know. Yeah.
Well, so that's the part that on boots on the ground to help you better understand that when you go in these communities. I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That and the fact that historically speaking, you got one drop of Black blood, you Black. That's just how it goes. And so that was basically designed to exclude. But in this particular one, it has to be inclusive, because one drop of Black blood makes you Black. We gotta serve it. And that, to your point, I mean, we got from light bright to on the other end. And so it's just how we work, how we roll. That's who we are. And so we gotta serve our community. We gotta take that in consideration.
And this is much further down the line, but I've been a part of like health specific work for the diaspora where the outcomes were based on serving the African American community. So maybe 300 folks came through the door. If only 150 were African American, you know, we were still looking to change specifically what was going on with it. I mean, we wanted everyone to be served, but in terms of like the really trying to bridge the gaps and the disparities that, you know, we were measuring there differently.
And that was kind of the place that I think I was asking that question from, was more from a service provider's perspective of how will they navigate being able to service and serve all of these populations, because I don't think anyone should be excluded, because we all need help. But, you know, I think that this is something that's kind of new, and it's going to be a service provider who has a different, I think, a different perspective on how to do this work, to be able to navigate that, but also be able to adjust and pivot when necessary to contextualize what's happening here in their particular neighborhoods as well, so.
So I'm wondering, and I'm just gonna look into the co-directors here. Should we go through the lead entity, or do we want to like for now too?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I have some more work to, thank you so much for all the discussion in this. I do think it's important, everything that was lifted up. I'm always concerned about data and where it comes from and how well it's been looked at. We're gonna take a look at the lead entity, recognizing that we're also gonna take some more time to make this more engaging. The goal is to have you all be able to review it fully. But we're just trying to get some feedback, which we've gotten some. For the lead entity, do you want to go? Peter?
Sure.
Thank you so
We can
much.
walk over this. Again, we did review this last time, so some of this, so this should be reviewed, but again, it was a lot, so. But real quick, before we move on from the service providers, also just want to remind this group, this is not a lot of money pushing out.
Exactly.
So it really is a drop in the large bucket that we need to fill. That said, we can still do some really amazing work with what's available, but do not feel compelled like we're going to have to answer all of the community's needs with these limited number of dollars. And it's not just on the service providers who are based in the community that we will be funding. We are also going to be working with our county departments, like our health department and our EHSD, Employment and Human Services Department, so that they can also better partner with this network of providers that we're creating, so they can become more culture responsive and better at engaging Black community and vulnerable communities in general, and bringing to bear all the resources that they already have into play. So when we talk about this implementation lead, so much of this organization's role is to connect those dots, to help support the CBOs on the community-based organizations on the ground doing their work, but also connecting them with the county-based service providers and creating a true network that is a private-public partnership that is both community-based and county delivered. So when we talk about the implementation lead entity, It really is about serving as the backbone entity to create this countywide network of services. There are a number of responsibilities that this entity is going to have to do. Just wait a minute, okay, no, that's not right. So we are asking for an existing organization to come in and provide the type of coordination across those different services. It's gonna also have to provide capacity building training for the organization. Both community-based goes on the ground, but also providing some cultural competency, cultural responsive training for county departments. It's going to try to have to set up the systems of coordination so that these organizations are able to send referrals to one another. So that there's communication protocol so people can share information with one another in a way that's safe and that honors confidentiality, but helps also effectuate better service delivery because folks are sharing families and individuals. It's about also coming up with a sustainability plan. This implementation entity lead is going to have to also come up with a 10-year sustainability plan that braids and weaves funding sources beyond just what the county is providing. We're partnering with philanthropy, partnering with local jurisdictions like the different cities, like Richmond and Antioch, Pittsburgh, see how they can also participate in this work, aligning goals and objectives across multiple funding streams. And to do this, we're looking for an organization that has the infrastructure to hire an executive director to create an independent 501c3. Because we're thinking that this work has to be held by an independent 501c3 that is created specifically for the purpose of establishing this network countywide. But to do that, to hire the executive director and whatever core staff at the beginning and to provide that person with benefits and do payroll, a lot of infrastructure around this group to do the coordination, we need an organization that already has some of that infrastructure in place to help support this 501c3 as it gets off the ground. In addition to hiring an ED and the core staff, it's also got to create, form a board of directors and a community council. So it's a lot that we're asking of its implementation lead. Just like the service contracts, I don't know if this was made explicit, these would be this would be a 3-year contract period. So whoever is, they're applying for a 3-year contract. Every year, though, is subject to renewal, and that renewal is contingent on performance. Are they meeting their deliverables? Are they demonstrating progress, right? So similar to the service contract, same with this one, but it's a 3-year contract. With this particular one, it's a graduated disbursement of funds. So in the first year, it will be $500,000. Second year, $750,000. And then in the third and final year, $900,000. That's to account for the idea that each year they're going to add 1 or 2 more staff as the capacity grows. So that's it in a nutshell. It's in the implementation plan that you have in your packets that we share with y'all in detail. Similarly, in the PowerPoint slide deck that accompany that implementation plan, there are charts that kind of walk through this. Yep, questions?
So I know we have priority areas identified in each in West County. As far as like population by numbers, do we know which side of the county has the largest number of the population that we're trying to serve?
So I remember correctly, and we do have some of that information. I think the largest concentration of African-American community members still are still in the West County, what part of our county?
There may be arguments between East and West County right now.
There are.
It's a hair,
It's like
right?
a couple thousand
It's a couple
people
thousand,
between
yes.
Richmond and.
East
But-
Sorry, I'm just thinking about location of the.
But the rate of growth is
East
East County.
Got it.
Antioch, Pittsburgh has always
likely to
been
end up being
a
East
high
County.
number of Black community members. But to your question, if this is where you're going at, we're not suggesting that this implementation lead, I mean, if whoever applied comes in and says, we have a base of operations already that we want to offer for folks to work out of the meeting, that's great. That'll just add to the strength of their application, right? Or their set of qualifications. But we are also proposing in our plan that the county also designate a county-owned site in Antioch to be the central headquarters for this 501c3 beginning in 2029. Just because that site currently is not available, it's occupied right now, but there are already plans in motion that the board is going to consider of vacating that building. And so the current occupants are gonna go to a different site in Brentwood. And then that building will be open. And that'll happen like in 2028. Then we're hoping that we can then move in, renovate, and create the headquarters site, the anchor facility for this 501c3 in Antioch. But again, want to really emphasize, this is a countywide network. The goal, the vision is that you have these target populations that are able to access the services readily and easily. But we do know that even though they're small, we do have pockets of Black communities throughout our entire county. As far down as Danville and La Marinda area, San Ramon, Martinez, here in Martinez, right? But so how do we develop a network that's able to kind of over time have tentacles that reach out to all parts of the county? And yes.
So I have just a curious question. And this is based on like the history of work, the data collection, everything that's been done over the lead up to the board that's sitting here. So have any organizations kind of informally pitched themselves as a potential implementation lead? I'm very curious. I don't even know the answer to the question. And I'm asking that question because it would be interesting to just informally explore, like, what have they pitched? What are their offerings? What's their history of impact, if any, across the county? So I'm just curious if you or anyone in this room would be aware of any potential implementation lead that can kind of inform just our exploration at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and trying to figure, yeah, we've also reached out to folks who have developed networks or who have strong Black leadership, who have a presence, just to, even when this implementation plan was being developed. The reason we don't want to share, they haven't publicly, I'm not sure, they haven't publicly put their names for it, but we have explored. I'll say that we can give like sort of like these general descriptions. So there are community foundations who have a strong emphasis in Black population health, and they have invested in Black health. There's another entity that has a network of services in the workforce development area. Probably name it who they are. You're like smiling. You're like, we know what you're talking about. But I'm just saying, we've talked to as this plan has developed, because we want to make sure we'll receive applications, right? So we have been over the last at least year, been having conversations. For the TCAB members that went with us on the site visit, talked to Sierra Health Foundation. I mean, that was made public in that conversation with them. So
if I could even add a little bit more detail, a little more transparency. So Kendra mentioned community foundations who have an invested interest in certain parts of the county. They don't necessarily do service delivery, but they're interested in growing organizations and developing Black leadership. You have service organizations, nonprofits that currently have been contracted to do these network of support services in different fields. So they have some experience creating countywide networks already and have some infrastructure in place. You also have community-based health clinics that are actually community-run, that are in the business of expanding health equity and health opportunities for vulnerable populations. Then you have small, emerging, or established organizations, nonprofits, that are more place-based and kind of operate within single communities or smaller geographic areas, but are really invested and committed to this work and idea and believe that they can also help kind of grow and be the engine to grow this work. So those are kind of examples of folks that we're gonna most likely see apply for this implementation entity. What we will want you all to consider though is one, again, any organization that comes in, that's why the proposal was to have a new 501c3 be established. That anyone who comes in if they insert their own established identity, will they be open to actually having a board of directors that is evenly representative of community and system leaders? That's what's in the proposal here, that this board of directors of the new nonprofit has both system representatives, like a health director possibly, or a social services director, as well as local community leaders. Some organizations, they already have established boards, and they're like, we're not gonna change our board composition. Are they also open to having a community council, which this proposal includes, that has people with lived experience informing the decisions of that board of directors and executive director? Will they be interested in hiring a brand new executive director who's dedicated to this work? So that's why the new 501c3 was prioritized, because all these organizations, they can come in and help start and be the impetus. But if they remain that, then they can kind of absorb it into something that may not be true to the vision of this.
Right.
But all those examples I gave you bring different, there's pros and cons to what they can bring. And it's gonna be up to the selection committee to really determine what's most important.
You want to? Go ahead. Yeah. Okay, I was just asking Peter if he was on a roll, so I didn't know if he wanted to. The last thing I do want to share around your question, Dr. Nichols, is there is an organization that has established a hub with this name, African American Wellness Hub, and so that's 40 Voices, and so that coalition will probably also apply. Willie?
Yeah, and that's already out there and functioning to whatever degree that it is functioning. Might be subjective, it might not be. But if I'm following some of the things that Peter just outlined, and for what I'm picking up from being a part of the initial feasibility study that was done, et cetera, it was to create something in the county that will fill the voids of the present county services that is causing or for whatever reason. And so therefore it needs to be something that created and build around that part of it, as opposed to someone who's already got a preconceived notion about what they see as the issue. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you got this group who's giving input and trying to look at what might be the best approach to the broader, more in-depth coverage to fill in these gaps with the limited amount of funds that's available, I just think looking at someone who's already doing something may not necessarily be a good approach, particularly if they have the same name as this have. Now, there may be variation in how this is named, but it's still basically the same service.
Yeah, yeah. Agreed. That makes sense, yeah.
So, we're gonna take more space to talk about the implementation lead.
But before we go on that, so again, opportunities for you all to lean in when you receive this implementation lead solicitation again. And what we didn't mention the last one, but here, metrics that demonstrate progress and success. Are there specific metrics around outcomes that you want to be sure is lifted up and included? There is a difference between this solicitation and the service solicitation. The service one is a request for proposal. Going to be asking applicants to put in their best proposal for what their service is and why it meets the requirements of the solicitation. For this one, because it's so prescriptive around exactly what role we need this implementation lead to play, this was a request for qualifications. So we're not asking folks to propose to us what they think should happen. We're asking them, how qualified are you to perform this particular role and function? So it's a different kind of solicitation. I want to make sure you all are clear on the difference between the two. And then the last thing I'll add is that there are individuals who've come forward and have said, hey, I think I'm just an individual who can play this implementation lead, and they can apply too, you know. So we're gonna probably get a diverse variety of applicants for the implementation lead. Yes.
Can you clarify, so when these organizations are applying, are they adopting the 501c we're creating or hoping to create? Or is it an additional? If they already have their 501c, are they gonna adopt this 501c as part of? Or are you expecting them to take on this, but a separate entity? How does that?
We're envisioning a separate entity. Now, how they have their relationship with this implementation lead is gonna be a very close one for sure, particularly in the beginning years, absolutely. The example that kind of resonates a lot for us is when we went to Sacramento and how the Sierra Health Foundation creates the center as an independent 501c3 to carry out public health initiatives. There is a very close relationship, absolutely, but that is an independent 501c3 that has its own infrastructure and leadership. We're looking for an independent. Any other questions before we move on?
In 18 minutes, so, to close this conversation, we will, share out the RFP and the RFQ with you all and invite your read, your close read and any feedback or edits. We'll give you a week and a half and we'll spell that all out in the email that we send. And so you'll have an opportunity, to weigh in. And then when we come back in December, that's when we hope to finalize, review that final draft and finalize the solicitations. Okay. Thank you all. We
So
do
one last thing, when you receive those drafts, we're gonna help, there are certain parts of the draft of these solicitations though, that we cannot influence or change. That's just the standard canned language that are on all county contracts, around, contracting language. You'll see that, we'll be sure to come lift that up, but there are some things that must remain because that's just part of the contracting process that we don't have any power over.
But is it gonna be highlighted on the document, so we don't spend time?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what we do. We're gonna say focus on these areas.
So let us take public comment before we move on to the next. So if anyone in the room or online would like to make public comment on this agenda item, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing no hand, thank you. Alrighty, and so as we discussed, the name kind of was generic for a while. The previous steering committee created the name to be like inclusive, holistic wellness resource hub. And so there's with the passing of Supervisor Glover, who was a champion of this particular initiative, as well as other equity efforts in the county, the supervisors did lift up, is that in July? August, yeah.
In August, that they would like the hub to be named after Supervisor Glover. And so we don't have to be the AAHWRH anymore. It could be something cuter than that. So I put some idea names on here. These are not by any means, these are just things. I also did like a word cloud. I don't know if folks are familiar with that, but I just like threw some names in and like made like a little word cloud. Because if we want to offer the idea that, there's gonna be like, a site built, but there's also gonna be co-located work and mobile work. So the idea is that, it's a network, it's a whole network, it's a whole kind of ecosystem. I'm really boring, but I'm always thinking social safety net, but just that's my public health lifestyle. But yeah, so I have some names up here. They're totally just options. I think that we can look at those. If folks have other ideas, we can put those forth as well. Just try to like be able to give this beautiful concept and network a name that's just a little more beautiful than the acronym we've been using so far. Yeah.
Walter McMath. As I sit here, I rather like the sound of Federal Glover Holistic Wellness Hub, number 10.
And I wish we had like who has that MC voice to read them all out loud for it.
Well, I'm happy to do that if you'd like, but I just want a clarification on the federal component of some of the titles, like.
That's his name.
That's his
Federal
name is
Glover.
Federal Glover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't have to say federal Glover, it could say Glover, like, it, you know.
I'm really advocating because of his work in the community.
It's gotta be federal.
Those of us who know him and don't know him, we're here because of him,
Yes, sir.
that his whole name be on there.
Absolutely.
Because it is his legacy, and I personally don't want nobody to forget it.
And yeah, totally, so we don't have to do like total like wordsmithing and like branding, you know, today, but we definitely wanna honor his name. I really appreciate that comment. So we had an idea, Peter and I were thinking that we could, you know, just, wait, what did we say?
So I think this is where that, so one is, if there are any other names that you want to contribute that's not on this list, we'll take those. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in the room with a show of hands. Each of you are gonna be able to vote for 3, your favorite 3. And then the 3 names that have the most votes, we will then go back around the room, and now with just those final 3, you each can only then vote for 1 of the 3. And that one with the most votes, we're gonna ask, can this be the name that we move forward with? It's kind of a big decision that we are asking y'all to do, because this is gonna be the name. But the only kind of things to consider is, yes, Federal Glover's name has to be included in it, because that's what the board directed. The other thing that I would like to also suggest, though, is how do we also demonstrate or illustrate the scope of what this is? This is ultimately gonna be a countywide network of services. It is gonna be more than a single site, or a single location. So would love to kind of have you consider that as you come up with it. So,
Do we have to choose 3? No, okay.
To that point though, Peter, I'd like us to consider that a hub kind of indicates something other than what you just said. A network, a web, or something of that nature, I would offer as a consideration other than a hub. Because a hub gives an indication that this is centralized, but what we're talking about is something that is mobile, is wide, is far reaching, and is able to get everywhere at all the time. Now, it's all connected, but it doesn't make it a hub. You know, so if you think about a spider web, the spider web goes out wide and it's got a lot of touch points, but it's not the hub. Yes.
And I was just gonna say the same could be said of center. Like the center also implies one location.
Yeah, so we could think about naming the network.
What about like collective network, or is that too much?
or collective,
Yeah.
collaborative, coalition, network.
Network coalition collaborative.
Okay. I have okay. So how do we wanna do? Do we wanna start with these, or do we wanna and go through?
So
I feel like,
I'm gonna humbly and gently suggest that we maybe take out the options that don't have Federal Glover's full name, if we're all agreed that we'd like to have Federal Glover's full name.
Can we agree on that?
I think it sounds reasonable.
There are,
Name in it.
you can put his name in
Yeah.
Right,
some
we
of
can,
them,
we
like
can,
number
like, maybe
2.
we go through and augment them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if we like them enough to do that. I think, yeah, I think we have it, so we have a time. We have it only 10 minutes time. And so.
Yeah, maybe any other
Maybe we just
names. So we
look
heard
up
we want
names.
Federal Glover.
Right.
So if someone happens to vote for one that doesn't say Federal Glover, we all are understanding that it means we're adding Federal Glover, right?
Okay,
I heard
yeah,
that.
I think that's
I think
fair,
that's fair.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
yeah, and the only thing that I would say is like being a community member that didn't know him as personally. If we're with that, if we're trying to make it less confusing, I would suggest us beginning it with the Contra Costa County. And then whatever the rest of the title is, if everyone else is okay with that, because federal by itself without the context, just looking at it is a little confusing.
Or so do we want to include supervisor federal Glover? Or is that
That could be a
too?
solution as well.
I think that might make it longer, cause all those titles are really already long. And I can think of so many places in the state of California that have names where we might not necessarily know who that person is, but gives us a great opportunity to learn more. I just think if we add anything to any of these titles up here, that it would be really long.
I
Yeah.
hear what you're saying. I like the fact that federal is first because it's such a statement, because what we're doing isn't just for our county. We're hoping that this is gonna go further within the national collective.
No, so just clarifying, so.
Not like it goes everywhere. I know it's his name, but I'm saying
Oh,
if it
I
comes,
was like,
if people question it,
I got
it's like,
you.
yeah, that's his name. That's a
Right.
strong
His
name.
name
Yeah.
is-
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's what I meant. I'm so sorry.
Got you, Rachel. No, thank you. I was like, no, got you. I'm still. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be like. When I think about the growth and the vision, I think Federal Glover Wellness Center can be used in various locations. You can have a center in East County, you can have a center in West County, and in Martinez, as it grows.
I just think network tend to satisfy me because it also kind of brings you back to a focal point as a hub with it. Anyway.
I actually like web.
Up here, I'm putting like the,
As a consideration.
yeah,
Just the,
just like some of the ideas of the pluralistic nature of it.
I also kind of like the Contra Costa County, only because there is an existing hub event out here or somewhere else. And while it may become part of the network at some point, there is confusion in the street as to who's doing what, why, and where, and for who. So if we identify that this is a county led initiative, then it gives clarity to the broadness of it.
If it's a county building, would it say like, it would have to have Contra Costa County at some point, right?
I mean, I was just thinking, yeah, it will, if it's a county building, it'll, but also, you know, when we write grant, if we publish this in the paper, when we publish this in the paper, we will have to say Contra Costa County with the title, with the rest of the title, like we say, I don't know, so, I don't wanna, but I will, it's your decision. That is just a long name.
Yeah,
It's just a lot of words,
Has
but.
to be taken into consideration.
And one
Oh, yeah.
offering is maybe we can, like, I hate to do this, but maybe we can vote offline on these names, but if there's other names that are lifting up for people, like, what do you think in terms of, because we have a time, and I know we said we were gonna try to always be done at 7:30. So I'm getting nervous about that, and I don't wanna rush the naming for something
Yes.
that's very important.
Yeah.
We wanna honor his name, we wanna honor the intention. And Walter has an idea that might help.
Just humbly and gently, I kind of feel like since we're already gonna be taking some nominations for next week with respect to chair positions, maybe we also take the opportunity to take until next Monday to submit potential names or ideas about names or thoughts about these. And then maybe once we all have our chance to kind of throw our ideas in, then we can all vote.
Yeah, we could take nominations, yeah, but any formal vote would have to take place in a meeting, in a public meeting.
Thank you. But I just wanted to ask, could we go back to what you said the first time and just go through? I think 13 is a lot, so if at least before we leave, we could narrow it down. I think that would be helpful, even if we're gonna submit something online.
Are folks okay with taking a few extra minutes just to at least narrow down tonight? Are there any hard stops?
I think we absolutely can do it in 5
No,
minutes
we should keep it set.
to vote. I mean, because you said we were gonna go around and vote. That's the tally. I think that could be done in 5 minutes.
If
Okay.
we read one and nobody votes for it, we can feel comfortable cutting it out, right?
I love that.
And then, and you still have an opportunity to submit additional, right? So we'll narrow it down, we can narrow it down today to go around and take the vote and then,
You know what I feel like would be even easier? Like if we voted on this last word, cause it sounds like we're pretty in consensus about like the name, but like the descriptor might be different.
I think there was a lot of ideas on that one, so I think that part might take because one person wants web, one person wants network. I think that might take a little longer.
Okay,
Center.
fair. Yeah, I'll pull some of this together. If we can, oh, did I see?
I can take web off.
Okay. No, I didn't.
I don't have a problem.
you and my son and Spider-Man and that's what my mind went to. Spider-Man.
We can, I think, yeah, like if we can go through the list today and at least get a little bit, I will pull some of those other words in. And folks can take some time to get creative. I can say that I'm very corny. So I just try to do the best I can to not be corny about it, but just to give some ideas. So I like the idea of just pushing through. Are folks okay with pushing through? Okay, the Federal Glover Wellness Network.
Hey, that's it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
This one needs to vote, that's it.
Number 2. The Glover Community Wellness Collaborative.
I just wanna say, I'm voting 2 because I like 1, if we can add the name community. Just a little bit analytical with the word community, it's more intimate and inviting for people. Yeah.
That's what this is about.
Okay. Should I write that? Should I write your community? Okay, number 3,
The Federal Glover Health and Healing Alliance. All right, 0 votes. Number 4, the Federal Glover Wellness Hub. 1, 2. Number 5, the Federal Glover Wellness Network. Oh, that's the same as number 1, sorry. We're gonna keep going, okay? Because we said Federal Glover. Number 6, Federal Glover Legacy Health Collaborative. 1 vote, 2 votes.
You can vote more than once, right?
Yeah, you have 3 votes. Number 8, the Federal Glover Legacy Wellness Center. Okay, 0 votes. What did I just say, you all? Was that 7? I'm so.
That was
Well,
seven.
no,
I
he
think.
said something about it.
Oh, I'm on 8, I'm sorry, you all. Number 8, Legacy Grove, the Federal Glover Wellness Center.
No.
Okay, none. Number 9, the Federal Glover Wellness Center. There's 1 vote. Okay, number 10, Federal Glover Holistic Wellness Hub.
I'm gonna raise my hand for that, and I'm also gonna humbly and gently suggest maybe Federal Glover Holistic Wellness Collaborative. So maybe
Yeah, rather
play
than
with
have.
hub.
Okay.
I'll vote for that too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna call this the Federal, okay, revote, hold on, the Federal Glover Holistic Wellness Collaborative.
Keep your hands up, please.
Keep your hands up, please.
If you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh.
Maybe closer than we think. Okay. Number 11, the Legacy Federal Glover Wellness Center. 0. 12, the Federal Glover House for Wellness and Renewal.
I liked it.
Okay, go ahead, raise your hand. Number 13, the Federal Glover Wellness Collective. Nobody?
Yeah, I can go for that one.
1,
That's my 3rd vote.
2, okay, okay.
You got one with 10.
And yeah, we have 1 with 10. All right, so we have narrowed down, we definitely have some zeros, we can cross those off the list, we'll send them out to you.
Right,
but
I thought
also
we were
can-
taking the top 3, though, just wanted to clarify based off Peter's instruction.
Oh.
Well, so we have 1 with 10, 1 with 5, we have 3 with 2, and 2 with 1.
Okay.
It's not, it's, yeah.
Is it,
Oh, I
we
had an
don't have
extra vote.
consensus on the one with 10? What was it again? Can you say the popular?
Yeah, so the Federal Glover Holistic Wellness Collaborative has 10 votes.
Is
And
that a
then
vote?
We can't just move
No.
forward with that?
It's up to you.
Overwhelming.
It's up to everyone.
Let me finish reading, then the Federal Glover Wellness Network has 5 votes. And then we have Federal Glover Wellness Hub has 2, Federal Glover Legacy Health Collaborative has 2, Federal Glover Wellness Collective has 2, then we have a couple of number 1, the 1 vote, I'm not.
Peter, I think the one that had 5
5 and
had
10.
an added word in there, community. I think,
The Federal Glover Community Wellness Network.
And then, may I just, we have public comment in the room because, and so can we get, if there, I saw your hand at one point, Anthony, a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm
you guys
sorry.
Talked about it.
It's already, okay. Thank you.
My idea is because we haven't focused on African American, so we can be creative in that. So I came up with Federal Glover Umoja Holistic Network.
Federal Glover Umoja Holistic.
Is it moved
Network.
together? Which one's it moved, I mean? Forget.
Umoja
Umoja is
Pretty much it's about community.
Found me?
unity. Umoja is
Umoja is unity.
unity.
Yeah.
I got you. Together, unity, yeah.
Oh,
You got it.
Wellness, what was the last word?
So please say it again.
The Federal Glover.
Glover Umoja Holistic Network.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. Yes, Mr. Government won't let us say African American.
Holistic
Network, right?
Wellness Network. Now I'm sorry, I'm getting to the.
But that's fine, but I said, you know.
Okay, but we do have a top, what did you say, 3?
So our top 3 right now.
We didn't vote on the last one that she said.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Do we want to vote on this one?
Sure. How many for the Federal Glover Umoja Holistic Network?
I didn't use all 3 of my votes.
That's my 3rd vote.
Mine too.
5.
Okay, now we have a top 3.
You have top 3.
And then we can, we can take a look at these and if I'm still.
So that means we can't vote on it till December, am I correct?
That's y'all wanted.
Because we have to
Right,
vote
we
in
have to be in
person,
person.
so we would
Unless
have
y'all
to
wanna vote
decide
on
if
it
we
now.
vote right now, or we wanted to vote in December.
Let's go down.
Let's vote now.
I move we vote now.
Accomplishment.
Is that you, or you wanna vote? Okay, there's a motion on
I
the
move we
floor.
vote
I'll
now.
take the vote down.
Okay, so we got a
Okay.
motion and a second.
Second.
And let's make it clear what we're voting for, what the options are at this point.
Yes,
Options are
the Federal Glover
Community Wellness Network,
1. The Federal Glover Umoja Holistic Network. And then the Federal Glover Holistic Wellness Collaborative.
So network collaborative, and what was the other one?
Holistic Wellness Collaborative, Community Wellness Network, Umoja Holistic Network.
I think we're trying to get it on the screen.
Oh, this is for me.
Because,
We typing them up for the screen?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm a visual.
Yeah.
No, this is for me, this is probably more for me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay,
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. We've got the typing out real quick. Or how,
So you can only vote on 1. And what we'll do is, we will go through and roll call, and you are when we come to you, you're gonna give us your vote. And then we're gonna tally them as we go through. Yeah, so name one of the 3.
Numbering?
Okay, yeah, 1, 2, and 3. All right, you guys ready?
sorry. Of course, while everyone's watching, you know, it makes.
Okay, let me just go top of the, Leslie Brown.
2.
Mariah Bruce.
3.
Angela Butler Owens.
1.
Rachel Corona.
3.
Lauren Dowd. 2. Edward Harris. 3. Bianca Rochelle.
3,
LaJean Payne,
2,
Walter McMahon,
1,
Delana Nichols.
2.
Nettie Obembe,
2.
and Willie Robinson.
1.
We got what we got.
it's 2. Number 2, oops, I was trying to highlight it. All right,
Federal government.
you all made a decision.
For sure.
Thank you.
I got some that.
I appreciate that. That's good.
And then.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so,
Jelena was did the motion, and someone seconded.
Pastor Ed, motion.
Yeah.
Jelena, thank you. I think Dr. Nick.
so we're gonna, we got a lot to follow up on, before our meeting. Our next meeting is December 8th. You all will hear from me by the end of the week. Congratulations on naming. Like, wait, I was looking for the names, so I didn't say it. And we'll give you an update. We just had a really quick update about some funds we're looking for. Community evaluation funds for the Federal Glover Community Wellness Network. Some community-based evaluation, opportunity through Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So I'll share more details about that. We're gonna take it to the board on the 18th of November so that they know that we're applying for this. Thank you.
Does this name go to the board now as well on the 18th?
We'll take this to equity committee first and see how they want to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah. So, November 17th is the next equity committee meeting, week from today.
And will we receive a notification for that?
Oh, for the next equity committee? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we'll send that out.
Send that out. And did everyone get a copy of the new bylaws and of the, everybody got that today? Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for your feedback and support in between meetings, for your time today, and for your thoughtfulness, for all the questions and pushback. That is very important. And for your grace with me as well. Does anyone need anything or have any questions before we move forward?
Play. You want his instrument.
I'll maybe save it for next time unless everybody just really wants to hear me today.
Oh, a song? Oh, okay.
I just want to know the outcome of, I know we were gonna go figure out if we're gonna have food or snacks for your people here, at this meeting. And I know you guys have trouble, you're saying it's a conflict of interest or?
No, we're just the county, with county funding. County funding, we're not allowed to purchase food. We have to, apply for exemptions, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we apply for an exemption?
Can we agendize that for the next meeting? If you would like to ask us to apply, because it's a
Yes.
process. And so.
I can help if you want me to.
No,
I
we
don't
can
know.
do it. We can apply for an exemption, but what I'm saying is if the board, let's have that be a conversation as opposed to it.
It's not that we don't want to honor your time or the time of day.
I know.
If it's not, if you guys are not hungry.
Let's add it to the agenda because there's also the conversation about, do we want to meet in the evening? We don't have to meet, right? We don't have to meet in the evening if you all decide on another time. Or you can also zoom in from other locations. Let's talk about this next time.
Okay.
And we will agendize this since this came up. Let's have a full conversation about possibilities. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, team.
Thank you. All right. I'm gonna-